I'd now like to please invite architect Goonmeet Singh Chauhan and architect Anand Sharma from Design Forum International to also please come on stage.
Good evening, everyone. I am Anand Sharma. Goonmeet and I really are extremely excited to be here. This festival, faces full of energy, enthusiasm. A little bored perhaps at this time of the day, but I think this is part of the entire festival, and we'll go with the flow. Goonmeet, Anuj and I created Design Forum International almost about 30 years ago. And we are here today to talk about, or rather take you a little bit on the journey that we have traversed over almost a career of 30 years. And I think Goonmeet.
I'm really happy to be here. I mean, talking to one's fraternity is always delightful. I feel collectively we rise. So the more we talk and the more we share, the more we grow together. And every time I see the community of, we like to call them vendors, but I think they are such great engines of creativity that I wonder if our job is to just utilize or our job is to get inspired. So for me, coming here is inspirational for two reasons: to see all the action that's happening in our country, in manufacturing these great products, and also to share our journey with you. We began, with starry eyes, the three of us studying at IIT Kharagpur, with very little knowledge of where we stood on the architectural map of the country. And without a clear direction, we just began with a lot of enthusiasm, with a great problem-solving attitude, and with this aspiration that someday we will work across the country. I mean, we went to IIT. The DNA of that place is such that all your friends tend to be from all parts of the country. And so your thought process changes. And it's taken us a while, but finally we pretty much mapped the length and breadth of the country. Projects in Srinagar, right down to Trivandrum, and the architecture also responds to those weathers, and all kinds of typologies, which Anand will talk about.
Yeah, so we've, I think, been very fortunate to have been blessed with a plethora of work. We didn't choose it. I think the work chose to come to us. And there has been education for primary school, secondary school students. We've been involved in skill development at the scale of Kaushal Bhavan. The marquee retail developments in Delhi have been our projects. We have also been, some of these projects we'll talk about a little more during the presentation, but very rewarding and satisfying projects of mass movement like Dakshineshwar Skywalk in Kolkata. There are courts and there are Vanijay Bhavans. But in all these different project typologies, there is something that we had sort of promised ourselves at the beginning of our careers, that architecture is for people. People are not for architecture. So a built environment, a piece of architecture has to have at the heart and center and horizon and focus of its core the people who are going to be using it. So whether we've done railway stations across the country or airports that we continue to do, one clear focus for us has always been the end user, him or her, as to what that user is going to be experiencing like, what the challenges of that person is going to be, and how can we best justify him being our end user client rather than the person in the middle, be it a developer or a government agency. And with that comes.
In continuation with that thought of being people-centric, it's very important that we create spaces in the city which resonate with the citizens. And the whole art of placemaking, as it were, is to infuse a soul into public spaces. And you find that when you are able to infuse soul by bringing in some character, whether it is retail or it is simply an office complex. So here we are showing 3 projects, the Select Citywalk, which offered to the city for the first time a lovely plaza of 2 acres. It was originally meant to be parking, but we curated it as a urban plaza. Or this little project in Bahadurgarh, AIPL Joy Street, where I think the landscape really creates a very nice setting and people like to hang around there. Or Eldeco Center, which is in South Delhi near Malviya Nagar, which has become a place of the highest rental in the city. And most importantly, people love coming back again and again because there is a certain soul to that place. And that is what we enjoy doing. Also, we can't limit the scope of an architect to simply a client giving us a brief, I feel we have the problem-solving abilities to solve problems for our cities. And one issue that has been very, very dear to us is pedestrianization, and therefore it's a much better approach for ecologically friendly mobility. So we have worked on 3 projects. One is the skywalk at ITO, which we were able to build very, very quickly in about 6 months using a bootlace truss. Or the Dakshineshwar skywalk, which essentially makes it easier for pilgrims to go to the temple. Or imagining a 200-kilometer pedestrian loop for the city of Delhi, which has been approved. A massive grant of $1 billion has been given, roughly 6,000 crores. And we've now got 8 out of 9 approvals because the city has so many different governments to deal with. And this is a central government project also backed by all the various governances.
But in this entire gamut of things, I think what gives us the most amount of satisfaction is seeing a project which was finished 6 years back. Dakshineshwar Skywalk was finished 6 years back, and there were multiple challenges. There were hawkers whose livelihoods were getting displaced. There was traffic merging at the grade level, at the upper level. There were people walking, lakhs of people on special occasions. And it's very, very gratifying and very, very full of satisfaction for us that it's become a place of pride. It is a place of architectural fulfillment, functional fulfillment, and eventually it has made people's lives so much easier in the simple way that it has been implemented. And what that does is makes us braver, makes us more audacious. And having dealt with a scale of a 350-meter long skywalk, the longest structure after Howrah Bridge, if I may say so, in Kolkata to come up, we are now tackling a new challenge wherein a 300-meter long facade of a government building in Bhubaneswar for Odisha Mining Corporation, we are treating with a kinetic facade, tackling the dual challenges of maximizing visual light transmission and still minimizing the heat gain. So there is a kinetic facade which brings fluidity to the building, it brings dynamism to the building, and truly facades become canvases. And therefore, a language has to be spoken, and Goonmeet will talk about the purity of that language.
Yeah, I feel, the way we speak, we can hardly stick to a language in one sentence. So if I am in Delhi, I would speak in Hindi, English and Punjabi, and that's true for most people. And that reflects in our buildings as well, where buildings really don't have a refined language. And I think unless a building has a cogent language, it's really not architecture. We are very fortunate to have done a few buildings around India Gate. We've done the High Court, which is next to the National Gallery of Modern Art, and we researched on the vocabulary that we should use there, realized that essentially it has to be informed by stone, and the buildings at the top actually use the materiality of that area, but they're constructed in a modern idiom. While the building below, which is Vanijya Bhavan, which sits right next to the India Gate, the first building to be made there after a gap of 80 years. No building has actually been built there since independence. We felt that instead of going modern, let's be more rooted in the classical order. And we used the Delhi order, which Lutyens had created. So essentially, it's very important that our architecture follows a pure language. And then there is so much talk of green, but it tends to be equipment-based active green. This was a site which is just 1 acre, and I had to build an FAR of 3.5 on it. And it had 4 banyan trees and then quite a few neem and such. The option was to cut those trees, but we felt that it was simply not an option for us. So today this building is the first building to have been constructed above a tree. And what we found was it is difficult to get permission because the forest department said, we only give permission to cut. Building banane ki to hum permission nahi dete. So we went to the Delhi Urban Arts Commission and we said, why don't you give us permission? They said, you get permission from the forest. To cut the story short, finally the DUAC gave us a nice letter which says to the forest department, if you have no objection, then we will give permission, to which the forest department agreed. But then they said, put a cut into the building so natural light can fall. We said, no, the sun path, XYZ, we really don't need it. But they insisted and we agreed. And to my surprise, during construction, I found the tree leaning out to get sunlight. And then finally, when the building was ready and the cutout allowed light to fall through, I go there one day and I find green shoots are rising into the cutout. And for the first time, I felt how live each tree is. And for me personally, it's been a great journey, and this has completely transformed the way we think, no longer pursuing green architecture, but regenerative, where we would like to leave the site better than the way we found it.
But coming back to a forum which is as much about architecture as it is about business, one thing that is worth sharing with especially people from the younger parts of the profession, great architecture doesn't have to be great for the sake of it. Great architecture is also great for business. So we were part of this marquee, one of the most successful malls across India. That is about 20 years ago. Select Citywalk enriched the people who built it, of course, enriched the shoppers who eventually chose to take shops over there, and definitely enriched the shoppers who went to shop there. And what was true in 2007 continues to be true today.
So this project, Eldeco Center, we finished recently, and it has some of the finest restaurants which have opened up there. And we've created a 10-meter high colonnade. The stone that we have used is a Jodhpur stone, and it's a split face stone about 4 inches thick, because this building sits across the old fortress of Prithviraj Chauhan opposite the Kutub Golf Club. So we wanted it to look like a fortress, and we weren't allowed to build in the front because there is an arc that you have to maintain a certain distance from the fort, and that limited how much we could cover in terms of ground coverage. But we converted that into a lovely landscaped plaza. And so what happens now is people eat inside and then they come out and just sit in the sun. I've seen people actually working under the tree on a wooden bench, on a laptop. We are used to seeing these things in brochures. We're not really used to seeing these things happen in our cities. And that is what made this building very special, and they're doing well, good business.
Yeah, so, but coming back, it's been 30 years, though it doesn't feel like. Our hairs must have turned grey, our faces do look a little older than that, but there are very clear milestones for people who are pursuing their practices today. The progression has been very, very organic, mostly milestone driven, but by and large organic. I think we've moved with the wind. We have moved with the flow. We have responded to the challenges that were thrown to us. We started with a small practice of 5 to 6 people, moved on to becoming a 20 people practice. Our team really supported us along the way. We have grown with the government, we have grown with the real estate, we have grown with the people. And thankfully, all of this has come up with the growth of our own people. Design Forum International is the most important firm because the forum part of it is really thriving and really vibrant. We are who we are because of the people who we work with. I think people are the biggest strength in any industry, in an architecture more so. We are diverse. We are diverse across the cultural representation across the country. We are diverse gender-wise. We are diverse religion-wise. And we are really, really proud to be where we are, courtesy completely the people who have stayed with us. And thank you very much for your time. It has been a pleasure addressing you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.